Welcome to the MF Show, your pit stop for celebrity interviews. I'm Rich Waitas.
And I'm Jerry Zaiden. We're going to talk about hot car topics and the automotive industry and where it takes us.
Today we have a special guest. This is one that's been working with MagnaFlow going on, it seems like, since the early 2000s. That's 25 years ago. And, well, he's still the same legend he's always been. So we're bringing in Stewart, the Ironman, and we'll talk a lot about where that history came from. And let's talk to Ivan about what exactly has been going on lately in the world of off-road, your life, retirement, coming out of retirement, and working with us.
Well, I still stay involved, working with MagnaFlow and Camberg a little bit lately, a lot, actually. And I stopped yesterday on the way down I moved up to Flagstaff, coming through Riverside. I stopped and saw my old buddy Walker Evans, who had a stroke not long ago. So I'm staying in touch with, friends, and I'm heading down to San Diego tomorrow to see my old, if any of your listeners remember my pre-runner I had, which was a 4Runner that had a Ford Ranger frame and a 302 engine. I'm going to go down with those guys are restoring it. So, yeah, just kind of staying in touch and doing what I do. We, like I say, moved to Flagstaff and got a house in Mexico. So heading to Mexico the next couple of days and doing what I love to do, having fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. So this pre-runner, this is the first I'm hearing about the 4Runner on top of a Ford Ranger frame. So is it 2 or 4-wheel drive?
It's a 2-wheel drive.
So it's a 2-wheel drive.
It had a little Doug Nash 5-speed in it, 302 motor.
It's a little bit of a Frankenstein.
Yeah, it was. But at that time, when I built that, I was driving for Cal Wells at Toyota, and they didn't have even a V6. So I could put that V8 in there, and it'd have some horsepower. And it didn't have a lot of wheel travel, but it was a lot of fun, and kind of anxious to see if they're going to restore it. And I don't know what they're going to do with it, but it'll be fun.
Do you know what year the frame is on that?
Oh, I knew you was going to ask me something technical like that. No, I really don't. No.
So 80s?
In the 80s vintage.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, those two combos together literally makes the perfect truck.
Yeah, it does. It did at the time, especially since Toyota didn't have any real horsepower. I mean, they didn't have a V6 at that time, when I remember.
Just that 4-cylinder.
That's
22
right.
REs were like the going motor for the joist there.
But I sure had a lot of fun with it. I ended up selling it. I was telling Richard earlier that I sold the thing, and pretty soon the FBI was coming after me because the guy that bought it, they thought he was a drug cartel guy, and I had to testify in front of the grand jury, and that really got to be a mess. But anyway, it all came out pretty good in the wash there. But then he ended up crashing this truck after he bought it from me, guy, before he got out of Mexicali with it.
Okay. How cool is it to see that thing roll back into your life quite literally and see it kind of get rebuilt?
Yeah, they'll take it back like it was, because the original guys got it now that built it originally. So it's kind of a fun project.
Yeah, what's really cool is in the automotive world right now, it's the history is what we're all fully embracing right now. So when I hear that story of an Ivan Stewart truck on a Ford, this, that, and it was yours, and I'm oh gosh, where can I buy that thing? Because it's really cool.
Well, you go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, and then a friend of mine, so Justin Gurney, his dad's Dan Gurney, they wound up buying the 61 Impala that they shipped to Europe to race, that won and then got outlawed, and they wound up finding it as a total barn find and went out and bought it, and it's in perfect shape.
Oh, no kidding,
and
really?
So the stories are cool.
Yeah. Well, I got an invitation also. We were talking about old cars and stuff. Rod Millen, who was my teammate for years, and we got along really well together. And we both retired from Toyota, and he moved to New Zealand. New Zealand, and built a mansion on top of this hill. And every year he has a hill climb up to the top of his mansion. Apparently has a party that evening, But he invited me to drive one of my stadium trucks up the hill. It's all paved. It's probably a mile or a mile and a half maybe up this hill. But yeah, I remember when it was, and the first time up there, I was all over the road because I'd forgot how quick this thing, for stadium racing, you just got a real quick steering, And, but yeah, that was a ton of fun too. Just driving the old truck. But you know who else has got a lot of history in off-road cars is Lynn Cheneth. If you ever get a chance to go to his museum, and in fact, get a hold of me down when you get down below San Felipe, I'll take you up there and see. He's probably got 25. He's got 2 of them old dune buggies that I raced years ago.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, it's a 2-seater, and I won my first Baja 500 in. And then he's got a single-seater that I won my first Baja 1000 in. And they're all restored. I mean,
That's
all these
really
cars are really restored. So
I gotta wonder where some of those Mickey Thompson trucks went to. Those things have got to be cool in today's market, especially too. Bringing back to life one of those internal stadium race trucks, because one, I mean, that's the history I know is Mickey Thompson racing, and first time you got to see what you could only see pass by you at 80 miles an hour at Baja in a stadium and watch it happen over and over and over again. Those trucks, do you know if any of those things are still alive?
I do, because I had one of the stadium trucks that had an engine in it that was, I think, just needed the ignitions, all it needed, but it had a nice fresh engine in it, and I had it on my showroom floor at my shop in San Diego for a long time. But I sold it at my auction to a guy by the name of Marty Coyne, who has a razor store in El Centro, California, but it's in great shape. It's sitting in the showroom. Every once in a while, I stop. I'm over to Mexico, and he still got it. Yeah.
Is it at the kind of the down south store? What is that by?
The one that's in El Centro. He's got two stores because he got one up in Ridge, whatever the name is. San Bernardino. Yeah.
I think it's on the way to Palm Springs.
Oh. Yeah. I'm going down there, but I'll go by this week and see if he still got it.
Oh, that's so fun.
I don't know if he even knows. So he might sell it to me.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the coins are great. They just take care of the whole industry. Everyone buys all their watercraft and He's I've known him for a long time. In fact, our claim to fame is we both won. He won his main event in San Diego the same night that I won the main event in the truck race. Oh,
and that led to the arcade game. We're probably going to get to that a little bit later, but that's what started the whole arcade game. Was the same night that we won the main events in San Diego.
Oh, that's great. So we're talking about the arcade game. What was your high score on the?
I'll tell you what I do remember. I don't remember what my high score is, but I know my grandson. He's about 12 at the time. He set records in it. He beat me right off in the first 2 hours. But that's what he does. They play games,
Yeah.
That's my excuse anyway.
I don't know how many hundreds of dollars and quarters that machine ate of mine through the years. I just remember that was like you went to the bowling alley, you went to the arcade, but as a kind of gamer and that person that was like into that, Jerry was probably more building cars in the off-road world, and I was the one in the video game world trying to play them there because I didn't have that capability. But it was the only game, too, that had a person. Your name was on it, which is super unique because at the time, video gaming was a lot of these fantasy things and creatures, and there really wasn't a cool racing game. And nonetheless, one you could play with two buddies. I mean, having three people up, tag it up, and then spending quarter after quarter to get those extra nitros to beat your buddy.
Yeah, I mean, as a kid, I think it was Asteroids, Pac-Man, Evel Knievel, right? And then the Ivan Stewart game. But the cool thing about your game was you could race your friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Man, and that thing just sucked up quarters. Like
I never knew how many people I can't tell you how many people that I've been doing autographs for, different shows and what have you, and they say, "Gosh, you'll never imagine how many quarters that we used to put through that machine." Same as you were saying. But yeah, that was a really unique time because it was just about right when I started kind of understanding marketing a little bit. I'd been with Toyota for a while, and I knew that how important it was that I wanted to get that. They wanted me to endorse the game, but I wanted to get my race truck on all the sponsors. Because I knew that was going to be really important down the road. Not nearly as important as it was. That was the number one arcade game worldwide in 1989. The reason I know that is because I'm still in touch with the guy that owned the company at the time. He's retired now, but we still stay in touch.
He's retired.
Yeah, I didn't guarantee that. I knew that. He told me that later. That's how he ended up retiring. But I wish I'd have taken just a nickel from every quarter that was kept track of going through.
Yeah, you really had to sign a royalty agreement, right?
No. Well, I learned about marketing, but I didn't learn about finance, obviously. Yeah. But it was good. I mean, it was with hindsight, I mean, it was fantastic that I'd go over anywhere that I went. You'd see that you go to an arcade game, Japan or Guam, and we raced in Guam for a while, and they were everywhere.
So I wonder if that's the first time I used nitrous.
Yeah, no, my name is Oxidizer. I'm a nitrous person, and I want to attribute a lot of that to the fact that my first exposure was in a video game because it made me go faster.
Yes, exactly.
Just hit the button and jump and flip that thing up. Yeah,
that was a crack up.
I tell you the quick story though, that how it came about is after Marty Coyne and I won our main events, like the next Monday or so, I was in a sushi bar, real small sushi bar, and my wife and I are having sushi, and down there 30 feet this way or 10 feet that way was some young kids talking about the race that had just happened that weekend. That's the one I won the main event. So I'm kind of listening to them talking. They're talking about programming a game and da-da-da-da-da. So after we ate, I went down and introduced myself. And, it was one of those deals. You're Ivan Stewart. We just watched you win the race in San Diego last, Saturday night. And we're programmers, computer programmers, and we're making this game, off-road racing game. Well, the first thing I thought was, this could be interesting, because if I could get myself and my truck, especially on this game, I said, well, I'd like to meet your boss. He said, yeah, his name is John Rowe, and he'd love to meet you too. So anyway, I went over, met him, got the thing started, and I said, I'll tell you what, I want you to use my truck on the arcade marquee, and I'll go take care of getting all the releases from the sponsors, because you just can't go up and use MagnaFlow's name without permission, So anyway, I made that happen, and it was fantastic. I mean, that was a big part of my off-road racing.
So is this game just came from chance of being at a sushi restaurant?
Yes,
just
absolutely.
Because they knew who you were.
Just because they knew who I was, and I did more than that, and I really helped them develop the game, because I really wanted to. I took them for rides in that pre-run we were just talking about, the one with
so
the
they
Ford.
could feel the suspension and the
that
mushy
jump and how it landed. But if they did another generation, I was going to set them up. I told them, so you do another one, and I'll just let you drive my pre-runner. That way you really get a feel of what it's like to race off-road,
Yeah.
That didn't materialize, but yeah, that was
Who would have thought, too, from a marketing standpoint, too? I mean, I don't even know if that was the intentional target. I know Toyota really never had a spokesperson before, and they were heavily into what you did with like Mickey Thompson and the truck and branding. But then you literally had this video game outlet where you had people that were 8, 9, 10 years old that were getting exposed to what would be their future thing. And I know I was influenced by that. And that became a huge part of like what I saw as, racing and off-road and what was cool about it. And it ended up driving me into a career inside of automotive. So it's really cool to see that was something that accidentally happened that came in there. But I think that's kind of like this industry. If you're into it, you love it. You just find things around you that make it work.
Yeah. It was just to be a part of that, because I have a lot of people, just like you say, they got involved in off-road racing because they were fascinated with that game and jumping and sliding and throwing dirt and all the things that are fun about racing,
Yeah,
and rubbing elbows with your buddy.
Exactly. I really feel like the 70s and the 80s were probably one of the most magical times in the United States. Because if you think about like the TV shows with Chips, right? And then they had their episodes where they took, I think it was Officer John had the blue truck, and they're raced Baja, and they're, trying to get the bad guy. The video games, the stadium racing with Mickey Thompson, Supercross was just kind of happening at the time. So they were kind of condensing marketing. And then we had this whole like truck thing happen. Where, trucks were like on a farm. They weren't really your daily driver. And my first vehicle was a 1989 Toyota pickup truck.
Oh, really?
It was brand new.
89, wow.
89 is the first year of that new rounded off style, what your stadium truck looked like.
Yeah.
And I remember it was white with blue interior, no radio, no air conditioning.
You should have kept it.
I wish I did. I think it's worth like 10 grand now. I think they paid $5,000 for it brand new. But that truck paved the way for my whole life. But that video game and watching, the Mickey Thompson off-road and the desert racing, which we were talking about yesterday, was like on the wide world of sports, right?
Yeah.
Where Bob Bauer was a really young guy back then.
Yeah.
And, but how well those shows were done back then compared to what we get now. And like the live stream and the reach, like back then, I think we were reaching a lot of people with off-road, but the manufacturers help.
Yeah.
And so that segues me into this next question is like, why do you feel like the manufacturers aren't involved in off-road racing anymore? Like, what would
In
you
off-road desert racing?
Yeah.
Cost, I think television, the cost to be competitive. I'm just guessing at this, I don't know. But I mean, they're putting a tremendous amount of money. I'm talking from, well, manufacturers, Toyotas, mainly we're talking about. But there's so much money put in NASCAR. Tremendous amount of money there. And it doesn't leave a whole lot for off-road racing.
Yeah.
And the other is that I think that the reason Toyota got so involved in what we were doing is because they had a factory well-funded team.
Yeah.
We were really well-funded, tremendous amount of money to test with and things that most people that don't have. So I just think it's because they had control over that, and they had we had stadium trucks and desert trucks there for a long time, so they could with one shop can do both forms of racing.
Yeah.
So everything worked out perfect for them.
Well, I think timing-wise, too, is critical because Toyota was bringing a four-cylinder compact vehicle to market against F-150s and Silverados that were V8 big trucks, and they needed to show that image of, we can get performance. We can get and compete against these other platforms, which were atypical for a U.S. buying customer. We wanted a big block, even though it only made 200 horsepower in the 80s, but you wanted a big block. And, here you have a lightweight vehicle with a high-performance motor, but no one wanted to hear it. They had to see it. And that outlet that Toyota created was pretty amazing that they were able to find a way to bring this, compact vehicle that was perceived as a import and compete against the big three.
I've told this story so many times. You guys probably haven't heard it, but one of the things that I was the most proud of in my racing career was the fact that I was part of a relatively small team. PPI, Cal Wells, PPI, TRD, Toyota Motorsports, the marketing agency, PR agency. I mean, that's a relatively small group for worldwide recognition that Toyota trucks have got now to prove, and I think this is the reason they probably went off-road racing, in my opinion, is to prove the durability of that truck. They already had it was pretty good. I mean, it's durable for, not the truck, though, but in Australia and in Saudi Arabia and all those, rough places that you operate a truck. But to be a part of that team probably makes me really proud.
Oh, yeah, that was the team in off-road. I mean, and that's kind of why I asked that question is, you look at how it put Toyota on the map was, in my opinion, through the truck racing. 100%.
I believe
made that brand.
Yeah.
And then globally, right, because Toyota has that reliable, high-quality vehicle. And then they were actually racing and performing with it. And that's why I kind of look at it. I'm like, okay, what cars in NASCAR, how many cars did they sell versus the profitability of trucks? Ford selling, I don't know how many Raptors every year now and Super Duty F-Series trucks. And the profitability from truck is massive, right?
Sure.
And then you look at, the specialty vehicles like the Raptor came, and I have the pictures of both of them side by side, but we worked with TRD and did this TRD Tundra for the 2007 Tundra launch. It was orange. It was towing a trailer. It had the fenders, the tow hooks. And so if you ever Google, orange 2007 TRD Tundra and then Google the 2010 Ford Raptor that launched in orange was really a copy of that Tundra.
Yeah.
And if you see it side by side, you can't argue it. You're like, oh, wow. And it's even orange, right?
Yeah, right.
And, but for Ford, like those specialty vehicles for Ford and for Toyota with the TRD branding on them, they do really well. And they're also, using the rigid lights and the different, the Fox shocks and all the different components. But name branding, this is what you get, which came from the mountain bike industry where it's like you piece together the parts, put it on the bike. Now you really want that bike,
right?
Because it has those name brands. And I really feel through racing, the manufacturers gain so much from that because now they create fans out there that have to have what their favorite driver or team has, right?
Sure.
I think Toyota leaned into it a little bit too, because there was an Ivan Stewart edition truck, supercharged, R exhaust. It had all of these aftermarket pieces, but I think it was sort of at the street truck kind of market. It wasn't so much like in your genre, which I thought was unusual that it was like a lowered kit with like aftermarket wheels and tires, but it's definitely something I think that they saw some value in. I just don't know where it got kind of misconstrued as not being a off-road vehicle.
Well, I think it comes some of those things. Timing wasn't right because I was involved with some of those, and the timing wasn't right, or COVID, or whatever it was. the economy took a dive or whatever it was, kind of slowed those down. But yeah, you're right. Those were programs that got started.
So in the racing, obviously you had to start somewhere in racing. So how did you get into the automobiles and the racing? Was it your dad, a grandfather? Was it you just were like me and really dumb and decided to chop up your own truck and go do it?
Yeah, really dumb. Yeah, that comes across. I remember those days. But no, I raced go-karts when I was a kid. My father was, I had nobody in my family that was really going to help me with my go-karts. I had a buddy that we'd work on it, and we'd go to the races, and I'd drive. For some reason, he never wanted to drive, so I would drive. And, kind of got to start there. And then later on, because I was raised in San Diego, so I was right across from the border, right on the border of San Diego. It was Mexico. And some of my buddies were starting to do some building off-road cars. Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking, what do you mean off-road? What's that all about? So, oh yeah, go down to the Mint. That's going to be coming up in a couple of weeks, you'll see. And I went down and I was just intrigued, not only with the Mint, then I went to the 1,000, but really the 1,000 really intrigued me as the adventure of doing this. Mm-hmm. The race to me was secondary. I wanted to race day and night and see what it was like to cattle in front of you and all the things that you talk about racing off road. So yeah, then I had 3 boys and a mortgage payments like a lot of people, and couldn't afford a race car. But I did have a friend. I had a dune buggy, take him my kids to the dunes periodically, and I had another high school friend that decided that we would go to the races and watch. We didn't have a race car, but he said, he told me one day, Ivan, I'm going to build I talked to my wife, and I'm going to build a 2-seat buggy to race off-road. And we're going to do this race and that race. And you can ride with me. I'd like to have you ride with me, but you got to help me work in the race car. Well, that wasn't real keen in my eyes. I'm going to get somewhere. I got to work in the driving this thing because I definitely don't want to ride. So I rode with him about 3 or 4 races. And then we had a race coming up. It was the Ensenada 300. And about 2 days before the race, he calls his wife and he said, I got bad news. He says, I just fell off a ladder and I'm just leaving the hospital. And you're going to have to drive this weekend. So this is a 300-mile race south of Ensenada. And so I take off. 100-mile laps, I take off, and within 3 miles, I slide off into a ditch. And there's no spectators to get me out. I can't get out. So anyway, spectators, I ran back and got some spectators, went a little bit farther, and the throttle broke from your foot. The cable that goes to the Morse cable that goes back to the carburetor, that broke. So anyway, I pulled it out. Now I'm very dead last. But I really had, some people have a desire to race and to win, and I had a burning desire. So I rigged up a hand throttle so I could give it throttle this way. I could steer with one hand, no power steering, by the way. Steer with one hand, give it throttle. And Earl, a guy by the name of Earl, a young kid that was riding with me, about 16 years old, I said, Earl, you're going to have to shift it. Because I couldn't let go of the wrench, the crescent wrench, because it would fall on the floorboard and then I wouldn't have a throttle. So anyway, I said, I'm going to give you an elbow. God, we were all screwed up. He'd be in the wrong gear, and I'd cuss him out. And so anyway, make a long story short, we kept going. We passed a car and passed another car, and ended up winning that Ensenada 300-mile race with a hand throttle.
That's awesome.
And then the next time we did the 500, I think it was one of those, and he says, Ivan, you did pretty good in the 300. When you start this race, you drive halfway, and then I'll drive the other half. And so I didn't like that either. But anyway, we got halfway through the race. We're leading. He said, you're doing great. Just keep going. So we won that one too. That was my first 500. And then
we know where the Ironman comes from.
Yeah, well, you could. Yeah, Valvoline actually put up $500 to anybody, and I wanted that $500 too. To anybody that could solo the Baja 500 or Baja 1000, I'd win the Ironman award. So I had 3 of those before anybody else had one. So and Mickey Thompson, the journalist, would introduce me as the Ironman. Oh yeah, that's the Ironman. He won 500.
So that's where that came from.
That's where the Ironman came from. Yeah.
So then this comes to a question, right? There's the Ironman. You drove by yourself, and
yes,
the term Ironman. Would you say a driver who does the whole race with a co-driver is also an Ironman, or does an Ironman have to be by himself?
No, he's got to be by himself. Because when you start changing tires like that one right there, with two people, that's a piece of cake compared to one person.
Okay.
And when you get cactus in your hand, you can't say, "Hey, by the way, Bobby, you get to drive. My hand hurts," you know. And so I mean, there's a lot of things. It gets hot. You know, there's been a few times that I've been Baja 500. You're down in San Felipe and it's 115 degrees. That's no fun being the Ironman, believe me. But that's what I did. Then once you earn the title, you can't get out of it.
No, right? You got to maintain it.
Well, and then if you're going to win one of these Ironman, you had to sign up solo. You couldn't sign up with you, and I'm going to drive until I get tired. And if I get too tired, I want you drive for me. You know, you can
or the passenger. You can't
the passenger.
So you have to be by yourself.
You have to be by yourself, yeah.
Yeah,
and they would check you.
Yeah, this was a debate, right? So this was, it's come up over the years, right?
Yeah, I bet we have.
So it's kind of interesting. So we heard it from the man himself. You have to be by yourself, do the whole race.
For the Ironman.
Cactus stuck to you,
but
back in pain.
But then later on, I always thought it was an advantage because as I got tired, so did the car.
Yeah.
Right? You got 500 miles and you got another 500 miles to go, pal. You better take it easy with this car. You've been beating it up pretty good. And you're tired.
Yeah.
You know, people ask me, I tell this story before. They said, well, how do you drive at night? You know, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. B.J. Baldwin asked me, he says, he said, I was tired. I got down to Catavina. I was tired. Said, that's only 480 miles. What do you mean? I told him, I said, you get tired at night. And what I do is I just push that throttle down and hold it. Don't let up. Don't let it. Believe me, your eyes will get bigger and bigger the faster this thing goes. That's a lie, but
yeah. Yeah, there was a race I was at, Vegas to Reno, and you know we're in a Ford Ranger truck. It had links and A-arms, all our long travel stuff, but the stock engine, right? And it's going quite a bit slower, so it takes us a lot longer to complete the race. But we got stuck a lot because we didn't have a lot of power.
That's another one, yeah.
But it's brutal. So I want to say I had the nighttime. I love driving at night because I'm just focused on just what's in front of me. I'm not looking way out there.
That's right.
And I literally fell asleep at the wheel driving a race car. So yes, it can happen. My co-driver, I hit the side and he starts hitting me like, what are you doing? I'm like, I think I fell asleep.
Yeah.
He's like, what do you mean you fell asleep? All right. So we were both awake after that because the side of the truck hit the side, you know, when you're on like a mountain.
It scared you a little bit.
A little bit. It will just kind of gets you pumped with a little adrenaline, right? And then I finished that race with the sun coming up behind me. And when you finish in Dayton, Nevada, you know, you have to climb all these mountains and rocks, and it's very technical. Like it's almost impossible for that truck.
Yeah.
Later on, when we did it in the unlimited truck, it was like, this is like cheating, right? The silt, you never get stuck. You just blast for everything.
Sure.
But this thing, everything was a challenge. But no, I've been there and done that. And then even at a Baja 1000 once in the stock Tundra. Yeah. Same thing. It was like, okay, I'm kind of done doing this night thing. Like it's 3, 4 in the morning.
Here's one for you. This is a good story. Before GPS, once they came out with the GPS, it never, nobody ever got lost again. I mean, with the GPS, you don't how do you get lost? You'd be really. I was down below San Ignacio. Okay, you get down in the lagoons back in there. And
mud is deep.
I was driving with Charlotte. I'm sorry?
The mud.
Yeah, the mud. Yeah, the mud, the lagoon, the muds. Anyway, so I'm with Charlotte Corral, and we've been racing all day and had a lot of problems. You forget about how much, now if you're driving solar and you've had a lot of problems, you're not winning the race, so that adrenaline's not up anymore. You just, hopefully you can finish. You just survive it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I leave San Ignacio, and we've been racing all day and had lost the battery and this and that, and I don't know what all happened. We were way back. I mean, we were way, way back. I just tried to run the points championship was my goal in Class 8. But anyway, I got way down there, and I realized that I kind of not about turned around, but nothing didn't look right. I mean, it was things, the arrows, I couldn't see any more arrows because if they're turned around, you're going backwards. But I did notice that the sun was rising on my right side.
Okay.
Right, and I'm starting to analyze, why in the heck is the sun rising over here? when Charlotte says, "What are you slowing down for?" I said, "Charlotte, why is the sun rising?" So I'd gotten completely turned around. And I was racing north,
Going north, yeah.
going north. But anyway, those stories are, you don't hear those anymore. Those are the adventure stories that were, that really made it.
The ribbons in the trees and the arrows stick to the ground are gone.
Well, they're gone because the little girls put them in their hair. The the guy leading the race knocks them down.
Yeah.
Right? You don't care about the people behind it.
No.
I never did that. But
Well, it's interesting too, because you were talking about that, and I've heard stories, and I've been like anybody and stayed up driving a car too late at night, but like the people that have these hallucinations, or what they call it, the coyote crossings, like you're so focused, there's so much light and dark, and then all of a sudden you see something run across the front of the truck, but it's literally just your eye fatigue and your brain playing tricks on you, and you've got to like tune that out at night. It's just, it seems so wild to have that same mentality of pedal on the ground and just hope that what you're seeing is what you're trying to react to, and it's not your body fatiguing or the truck, going to let go.
Yeah. Definitely some crazy nighttime stories.
yeah, you could go for ages. If you get 3 or 4 guys that race without GPSs, especially just to getting lost, and at night. I mean, there's
I see people get lost with the GPS.
that'd be a hard one.
Or it rains. There was one year at Vegas to Reno where like the monsoon happened like the night before the race.
Yeah.
And Casey didn't have time to get to everyone and say, hey, out there, we changed the course, but no one had time to get the new chip. And I remember like, okay, that's water. So I just like turned left. I go, hey, I'll take the DQ if they, do the tracking.
Right. Get out of the water.
But I went around the water and everyone was going out and turning around and zigzagging around trying to find a spot. Cause the lake would be in one spot and they'd think they could just go around it to the right, but then it fingered all the way around them. So they couldn't even get past it. And then there's people stuck out there. It's almost like today when you're in an Uber and they have to follow the map and they wind up on a pier or down a bridge or something, when it's like you got common sense involved, right? And I at least got to race a 1600 car in Barstow without a GPS. So I know what it's like to follow. But the new guys that come into it, it's like now it's like, they got lead nav or they have Onyx off-road or something. So they have full Google map style maps with a line going through it. So they can, well, there's the mountain, there's the building. So they know exactly where to go. But back when I had a GPS, it was like a dot matrix. It was like, hey, okay, I'm on the line and I don't know where that line is, So
technology.
Yeah.
I remember my first Baja 1000 win in a China single seater. We had some people, they had actually put the race off for a day. I don't know if it was a wet and wild Baja 1000, they called it, and they had to put it off because it would rain so hard. Anyway, so now that you pre-ran, and then it rained like crazy, so you never knew if you come over a hill around the corner if the road's going to be washed away or not. So we had some guys down at the end of Laguna Salada, a picnic down there. So when I got down there, they were supposed to go out on the dry lake to see if you could get through or not, because I was the first car that got there,
Okay.
And I got there and said, hey, can I go out on the dry lake? He says, I don't know. It's too wet for us to go out there.
Yeah. So probably.
So I took off to go out the dry lake, and it was so bad that the motorcycles were actually stuck in the mud. It's vertical. There'd be like 6 or 8 of them across the dry lake. But I don't know how I ever got across that dry lake, but that was the first win.
But you made it.
I made it, yeah. It was. I got pictures and stuff. Boy, it was a muddy mess.
I bet. So leading into that, so that's a good win for you. Was it, you were saying a first win?
Well, that was the first Baja 1000. Then I won the 500. Then pretty soon I'm starting to get a name now. I was starting to get some recognition. And Charlotte Corral and Coco Corral had called. These are all in dune buggies.
Yeah.
Class 1, Class 2 dune buggies. And I got a call from Charlotte Corral, who her husband owned a Fillmore Ford up in Fillmore, California. And asked me if I would drive a Class 8 for him. Sure, that's what I wanted. I mean, that was because the Volkswagens, all I had was, 4-cylinder Volkswagens. Mm-hmm. And said, sure. So, well, you have to drive my Baja Bug for a while. And I didn't like doing that. And I had to drive his old Bronco that was horrible to drive, like the one you were talking about. Yeah. But they were, if they were happy with me, they'd have Walker Evans build me a good, really nice Class 8 truck.
Okay.
And so I did. I went with him for a while. Then I kept winning. I mean, championships, the Riverside World Championships. I won that, and started, making more of a name. And then it wasn't long before in 1983 when Toyota Cal called me and wanted to know.
That was 83 then.
In 83, actually that was the first. I think it was 87. He called me and we come to an agreement. In that year, the next year, I didn't have a contract with Toyota, nothing signed, but I was driving a Ford on the desert races, a Stadium Toyota, and then Toyota didn't like that.
So for the Toyota, you started in the Stadium.
In Stadium, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, right. Well, it was actually the first race we did at Pomona. I drove a desert truck because they didn't have a Stadium truck.
Yeah.
If you remember that was the first race.
So was that the Downey off-road suspension type truck?
That's right.
Okay.
Downey, Jim Sickles and Pat.
Okay.
They sponsored us, and we had started picking up some sponsors.
And you did 7 Open at the Mint 400, right?
Yeah, I did 7 Open. I don't remember if I was looking at. I have a little card. I think I won 8 Mint 400s.
Okay.
Like 7 of them were overall.
Okay.
So yeah, it was. Mint was always a good race for me. I mean, I remember one year that when we had the V6, that the truck was so good. It was like later on in my Mint 400 career, it was always billed as the world's roughest and the world's richest off-road race. But my first lap was the quick lap of the day, right? And everybody knew I was driving solo. But I started thinking, you know what, I'm going to really piss these guys off that race. But my second lap was also the quick second. It was the first. It beat the first lap, right? And the third lap was the quick lap of the day. And I wanted to do that just to show the competitors
what the trying to do.
Dang, I don't know what it's tough or something, but I wanted that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you knew that.
From an engineering standpoint, it's like there had to have been also a distinct advantage of running like Ironman with less equipment, less weight, and you could deal with the smaller motor displacement wise. I know the horsepower game, the displacement didn't quite matter when you had Toyota support building the motors, but I mean, that also had to play with the psychology of it too. They got heavier vehicles. They've got more displacement of the driver offsets and things like that. I mean, it's got to be interesting because there was a lot of, I think, psychology in that racing. And I know you used to play that game, like you were talking about it. Like, don't ever let them know that was your best. I can do better. I can do better.
Oh, yeah.
And that truck always seemed to have the capability. I mean, PPI truck that came after that and all that just was interesting to see how much technology played, but still the psychology of the racer mattered, and like how you kind of poked at the rest of the field and what that meant. It was always about that personality, and you were always that guy that kind of like, okay, what are you going to do now?
I tried to, it's funny you mention that because I never tried to show that I would be, before a race, nervous at all. I refused, if stadium racing does or whatever, I refused to let that show to anybody. But I remember one time you were mentioning, it was a Las Vegas to Reno race, and we were doing good. I mean, we were dominating. I mean, we this is back in the real early 80s. But anyway, my son was going to ride with me. I had this class 7 is what it was. We put it in class 1,
okay,
right? And my son was going to ride with me, help me change tires or for whatever, right? But I was going to be in class 1. And the other driver, was kind of funny now because somebody mentioned this the other day. The other class 1 driver protested, boy, you can't take your son with you. This is class 1. I said, sure. Look at what a weight I'm carrying. I mean, not only the weight, and I still whipped him.
Yeah.
They made Brian get out.
Oh, no way. Okay.
Yeah. My son and I talk about that all the time, that he kind of thinking, Dad, they wouldn't let me go with you, and you still beat him.
That's funny. So what race meant the most to you to actually win, to get first place at?
Probably the one that had the most prestige was always the Baja 1000, but it had to be the 1000 that went to La Paz.
Okay.
If you could win that one, I mean, that was
But without the prestige race, would you say one meant the most to you?
The most fun for me was the 500 because I won 17 of them.
Okay.
That was that's what it was all about. But no, it's the Baja 1000 to La Paz is a long, grueling race.
Yes.
I mean, if you're by yourself or if you're with even if you're pitting to get down there 1,000 miles away, that's a big deal. But the 500 was just, plus it was around my birthday. My June the 4th is my birthday.
Okay.
And it's always right around the first week in June is that race. So that was my silly way of saying this is my birthday present.
That's cool.
But I got a quick story I tell you. I just thought of this as I'm talking to you. Of all the races that I did, the 30 some plus years with Toyota. The last Baja 500 I won in that V8 powered truck.
Okay.
And I knew that Toyota was getting ready to go NASCAR racing and their IndyCar racing, and Cal Wells was going to move on. So if you're winning a race in off-road or any kind of race, you just want to get to the finish line, right? You're running first, you're winning. The guy behind you by 10 minutes, whatever it is, you want to have a flat. But I didn't want to get to the finish line. I wanted it to go on for another mile. Give me 2 more miles, because I could almost coast 2 miles and still win. But I didn't want the racing career to end on that 500. That was going to be my last 500 win.
Okay.
But I didn't want it to end,
Yeah.
Not everybody understands that, but
Got it. Yeah, no, that's got to be one of those tough moments for sure.
Yeah.
Right? Because this is your career. This is what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My
But at least you
17th, but it was.
You got to win.
But I got the win,
Yeah. Wow.
Timing was just about right. I mean, we'd done just about everything we could do in motorsports,
Okay.
for off-road racing anyway.
Yeah. Pro trucks. So you did your own series of racing. I thought those trucks were really cool. I saw a lot of people cut their teeth, if you say it that way, cut their teeth in motorsports, off-road motorsports, and gave them, really, in my opinion, the first manufactured truck to the masses opportunity to get into racing something cooler than a little buggy. And that went on for how many years?
Well, we built 53 of those trucks. We were for about 11 years.
Oh, wow.
About 11, somewhere around 11 years. But yeah, because I wanted, and and everything you do, once in a while you stub your toe and you're wrong. I thought trophy trucks would be coming to the end. They were getting way too expensive. Nobody's going to be building trophy trucks, for racing for trophies, basically. So I was going to start the Pro Truck Series that I had control over. But I made several mistakes. I mean, I should have worked more with Sal. But I didn't want to just be in score. I wanted to do best in desert. And I also, more than anything, I wanted to take those trucks to different places.
Yeah.
Pikes Peak, which I did. Mm-hmm. Took them to Guam for 3 years. We shipped them over there at no charge to the competitors.
Okay.
And plus we paid them a bunch of money, too, to get them to Guam. Pikes Peak, Guam, Laguna Seca. We took them all the way down to La Paz to run a short course race. So that's what I really wanted, my independence, where I could work with sponsors to where do you want to go? Because I don't need a racetrack.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's what's unique about off-road racing is that where would you want to put a race on? I mean, we can do it anywhere you want to. Fairgrounds, you name it.
I love the vision of that, right? I feel like there's a few people in our industry that have had big vision, and it doesn't always work because you have such a big vision. It's hard for other people to see that vision.
Yeah.
Which that vision really makes sense to me because it's putting trucks in front of the masses, right?
And they were all the same chassis. All you do is change the body.
Yeah.
And the engine and the transmission and the adapter plate were all the same,
Yeah. And for me with 6100, that was that vision as like, hey, let everyone build their own truck, but we all run this one engine.
Yeah, that's even better. That's simpler.
And it's simpler, right? And it's simple because, GM just makes the LS3 engine, which, they made it for different reasons. It just so happened to work for us very well, and it continues to work well. But I've watched these pro trucks over the year, like, someone like Jason Voss, like go from dirt bikes to those trucks to being an off-road champion. And a few other guys out there, both Rick Johnsons and, there's been some big names that have started, Scott Steinberger.
Villosalas.
Yeah,
Villosalas. They started, yes.
So it's been cool to watch, but I remember seeing those at Pikes Peak. And what I thought was really cool about it is it just showed the world off-road racing. They didn't know the difference of a trophy truck or a pro truck.
They didn't know. They wouldn't know.
But they get to hear it and see it. And they sounded cool, and they had big soft suspension on them. So I always thought that was a really cool thing.
It was a way that we got involved. That was the first opportunity when we first started working with you, is you came to us on the business side. And we're like, hey, I've got this vision. And you took it one step further. It's not just here's a truck. I'm going to bring in brand names that people recognize. And I'm going to bring in brand partners that can benefit from the exposure. So, you had your spec truck with a spec exhaust system that it happened to be a MagnaFlow. And that was something that the people could relate to on the outside. Now that brought in people that, as a company, we had never been involved with a racing organization that spec'd our product. You know, there's been ones out there that say, yes, you need a quote unquote muffler, but the way that it was organized and the way you came to us was like, hey, we're going to show people that this product will last on your home vehicle and on your race truck, and it's the same product line. So it was kind of a no-brainer, but that was our first opportunity to get involved in racing, nonetheless getting involved with you as well.
Yeah, that was but that's exactly, you hit the nail on the head. That was my whole vision. You know,
it wasn't selfish. It wasn't just like, I want to build a race series to make money. You were out there trying to bring more people to racing, trying to bring more brands to support racing.
Absolutely.
And that was the best part of it.
And I could guarantee you a win.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We're just hard to do.
Yeah. And sponsors, if you think about it. So you brought their cost of racing down. I don't think people realized how much you brought the cost down.
Oh, yeah.
You know, some people complain about the cost.
Yeah,
They all went out on their own and figured it out real quick.
Yeah, right. Well, I tell you, when I decided to sell the business, when I wrote a check. I don't know if you knew this or not, but Vildosola won the championship on the last year that we had it. And I wrote him a check for $120,000. That was only for 6 races.
Okay.
Right? $120,000. But he wanted to go trophy truck racing. So the next day he puts his for sale sign on his pro truck and goes, this is it. I'm dead.
Yeah. Well, it's so much work, and that's, off-road truck racing with one truck on your team is a ton of work.
Yeah.
And then when you have multiple trucks, so I look at some of these manufacturers out there that build the trucks and prep them for clients and do all this work, and you're trying to find the talent to build the trucks.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
And it takes so much time.
And then somebody steals your talent.
Yeah.
That's what happens to my son a lot.
Yeah. And, for Craig, he's building beautiful trucks. And it's like, you get these great fabricators that you train. They're like your apprentice. And then they're like, oh, well, this guy's offering me $5 more per hour. And they're gone.
That's right.
But we're working on one rich guy's project, right?
Yeah, right. But it's comical as you look at it. But it's the way off-road racing has always been. And it'll probably be the same because typically what happens is they split. So you get so many cars in a Class 1.
Yeah.
Well, the guy that's back here can't win, so he goes to the promoter. So if you don't let me change my truck so I can win, well, I used to get pissed off and say, you know what you need to do? Take your truck out the desert and practice, because you were the shittiest driver I've ever seen in my life. And they didn't want to hear that.
No.
But
that's what changes the rules in all the classes.
That's what
100. Yeah.
And they'll split because the promoter is the sanctioning body. And there's the problem.
Yes.
When everybody figures this out, the promoter shouldn't be the sanctioning body.
Correct.
Because the promoter doesn't want to lose a competitor to another promoter.
Right. Yeah.
So he'll let you change the rules.
Yeah.
Now you pissed off half your field. You lost half of the field.
And they listen to the new guy who knows better.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly what my son Craig hit it on the nail on the head one day. He called me. He says, Dad, he says, I thought about it. You're in the wrong business. I said, what's that? He says, you're in the no business, because everybody wants to change the rules. He says, I'm in the yes business. They want to put an airplane engine in a trophy truck. That's sure.
Let's try it.
But there's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah. So in your racing career, I'm sure you had your heroes you looked up to that you had when you were younger, had the opportunity to race against. So I want to hear some of those stories. Like when you got to race the guy that had the big name, but you blew by him.
Well, there's probably 4 or 5 guys. Johnny Johnson was from San Diego, and he'd won a lot of Baja 1000s. And then there was Walker Evans. I mean, he was tough. I mean, he had to be. Little short guy, wear a cowboy hat. But I was telling a story not long ago. I got a chance to. Whenever Charlotte said he could build my race truck, I got a chance to ride with him, pre-run it.
Okay.
But I was watching him close. I was keep picking up on little things so I can whip you. But it wasn't near as easy as I thought it was going to be. But anyway, then Parnelli Jones, I got a chance to ride with Parnelli, and he was just the only one that ever passed me like 3 times. Malcolm Smith passed me a couple of times. I'm not sure Walker probably did somewhere, but Parnelli did. But those guys, the guys that I wanted to beat, I wanted to, if you beat Walker Evans, you're pretty good. You beat Parnelli. You pass Parnelli Jones, you're doing something. Yes. I've almost bumped him once, but that's close I could get about that far.
Well, that's a pretty wild pedigree, too. Parnelli Jones coming from the automotive motorsports in, IndyCar and the heritage he brought there. That's something I noticed, too. You don't get a lot of cross discipline, like inside of off road. So Parnelli is one of those odd ones that was able to go through and kind of get there, because off road discipline is so different than a cultivated racetrack with predictable corners, and they're cleaning the track and they're heating the track and they run in certain conditions. They got certain tire setups, where in off road everything's a question mark as far as you can see, and I think that's a different mentality, and that's always been, I think, like that you mentioned, adventure of like off road is there's still, no matter what maps you got, no matter what navigation you have, it's still going to be you against that dirt in front of you for as long as that race goes on. And
that's right.
It's such an interesting dynamic.
When I rode with Parnelli, it was funny you mentioned that, because the first thing I thought of, he just drives too hard.
Yeah.
Too hard. You slow down a little bit, make a left. But Walker was really, really good. And Johnny Johnson was almost slow. But he knew he was a mechanic, and if he
worried about parts, because
you also have, there's several things you got to think about off-road racing. There's not only racing the terrain and beating your competition to the finish line, but you have to be able to hear a problem and see a problem, feel a problem.
Feel the problem.
And that's what Johnny Johnson was really good. And then once you do you think you hear a problem, do I stop and fix it?
Or do I
go on down? And mine was always going, oh yeah, it'll be all right. It'll fix itself.
Yeah.
Self-clearancing problems.
So, I mean, there's a whole lot to it, but Johnny Johnson was probably somebody asked me the best off-road racer, not the fastest, not the best mechanic, but he knew how to win. And he won in more classes than anybody that I know of. And he knew how to tell you in a real nice way that if you're driving part of it with me, don't you screw up. Because I did it with him before, He told me one time, you can, we'll drive together, but don't you beat my lap times.
That made me look bad. So Hollywood and off-road racing, because you've been around the sport a while. Did you get to meet any of the Hollywood guys, like Steve McQueen or any of these Hollywood legend guys that got into motorsports? I know they kind of got in and then got out.
Jay Leno. I spent a day with Jay Leno. He's the Hollywood type, I guess. That was really fun. Who else? I'm trying to think of who. Not too many of those guys. The James Garner, the Steve McQueens, those guys that kind of made a name. Were actually really helped off-road racing. Yeah. That those guys that would come in and dabble in off-road racing, that was always a big deal. There's probably 10 or 15 of those personalities you're talking about. But no, I never did cross paths with them that much. No, I never. Jay Leno, spent the most time with him. That was a tremendous amount of fun.
Yeah, he's a funny guy. It's fun to watch him turn on.
Yeah.
Like he can just sit there quietly, just bouncing his leg, and then he turns on real quick and loves the people.
Oh, he's really good. He says, I remember he told me, he said, why don't you go on Dancing with the Stars? Because he had heard that I'd taken bar room dancing.
Did you do that?
Do what?
Did you do Dancing with the Stars?
No, he asked me, and I told him, I said, no, I don't have enough recognition. They're not going to ask me to do Dancing with the Stars. He said, oh, yeah, you could. I can help you. I said, no, don't help me.
I was just picturing Ivan in a cowboy hat and some snakeskin boots and twirling around the dance floor there.
But I have, I'm really, really lucky that all the personalities and fun that I've had with off-road racing and stadium racing and desert and opportunities, gone motorcycle riding with Parnelli and snowmobiling with Parnelli. He was my number one hero, so it was great to.
That's cool.
Yeah, he passed away last year on my birthday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I thought that was quite a coincidence. But yeah, ton of fun.
Yeah.
We're fun.
What a career. So what's in it for you now? Like, what do you enjoy to do? I know you have your Mexico house, and you were shoveling snow the other day.
Yeah, we want to do more traveling.
Okay,
probably that's a big part of our working with Cam, you guys, and all the stuff that we've been doing and can do and want to do, and new projects and new. And Camberg comes out with some new products. Help them market those, whatever I can do. It's always fun. It's a fine balance of time.
Yeah.
It's like everything. And I do a pretty good job with that, trying to.
It seems like you really enjoy the people.
Yeah,
I like that.
Oh, I do. We did an autograph session the other day there in Las Vegas with you guys, and every one of those people, they all got a story about their life. I get a kick out of asking them how they got involved.
Yeah.
That's probably one of the biggest things is what got you involved in off-road racing, because everybody has a story.
There's an interesting point there you'd mentioned, and it just brought it back to memory. Mario Andretti talks about like the first time he sat in a car, and it was very similar to yours, where it's kind of, he never wanted to be second seat, but he was second seat to his brother racing. And then when his first opportunity came available, it was because his brother was ineligible to race that day. I think he was sick, he was whatnot, and couldn't race. So he got that seat chance to go in there and just let loose, because there was no stress. He wasn't the guy who was supposed to drive. He wasn't the guy who was planned to be there. He just happened to be the guy who could do the job at the time. And because of that, it kind of like freed him to just let loose, go out there and do his best. And, lo and behold, Mario Andretti's brother never went down that racing path, yet he did. Yeah. I just think it's very funny that you were talking earlier, kind of like your first opportunities were, well, I had to take second seat, and I had to wait for that moment where someone was just like, okay, let me show my talent. And to your point now, I think that's always the fun part about talking about off-road in those stories, is that there's that binding agent amongst all people where they just got that one chance and they didn't say no. And I think that's a big part of it too, is that there's that fear of failure. You got to get in the car and you got to try. You might hit the wall, you might roll it, but you got to get out there and do it. And I think that's the cool part about these stories, is it's like, I was able to overcome the fear, and then I was able to overcome the adversity and the obstacles, and I was willing to fail.
It's funny you mentioned that story, because I have another friend that I've known since high school. He tells a story, and I didn't even dawn on me this didn't even be thinking about it, but he told it several times afterwards. We were in Glamis, and they had a hill climb, right? You can bring your car over, sign up, give your entry fee, and he wouldn't do it. And he says, I can't believe you just went over and signed up. And I said, well, what do you mean? Why wouldn't you? And I know he had the same thing, the fear, the unknown. What if this happens? What if I look stupid? What if I fall down? What if I get hurt? Whatever it is. But that was never my, even if it was, I wasn't going to show it. Like I said. Have you ever thought about that? Because I've been on the starting line with guys at the start of an endurance race, our stadium, whatever it is, and they're shaking like a... and they're nervous. Oh, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? How about that canal? You afraid you're going to fall in the canal? Well, I knew I could pass them on the canal, because they're going to be going really slow and careful.
See, I'd always
I use it against them.
Yeah, all the time. Every time I'd be at the start line, they'd be like, what about this? I'm like, you heard about what happened at mile 4, right? There's a big block thing there. I think I'm trying to figure out how to get around it. You remember mile 4? There's rocks everywhere, and they get in their head,
Oh yeah.
But yeah, some people, like, they're hitting the bathroom 5 times before.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, this is fun. I'm like looking forward to it. My adrenaline's going because I just want to start.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I used to have the Bill Stein, Doug Robertson and his brother. They would always try and play these head games, And they'd walk up to me on the starting line and kind of touch the bumper and feel the bumper, the rear bumper, And they'd go, hey, what are you going to do when we catch you? I was like, how are you going to catch how are you going to bump what you can't catch?
Yeah.
I wouldn't let them. I wouldn't let them get to me.
That's funny. So you got a new Land Cruiser.
Yep, I did. Yeah.
So when are we going to trick that thing out?
Yeah, that's when you get it up here and do something with it.
Yeah,
it's a matter of doing it. What do you have? Let's give Kemberg a plug. What do we have for the new 2025 Land Cruisers?
Yeah, so we have actually the Ivan Stewart kit that we put on the Tacoma. We can get on that Land Cruiser.
It'll still fit. That'll fit.
Yeah.
So no kidding.
A couple
really?
Little changes, but yeah, very similar platform. So we have the rear links, the upper arms, and then we have that MagnaFlow exhaust that'll go on the back of it.
We got MagnaFlow exhaust.
Yeah. Well, you got to see through the factory today. When you got a kind of chance to see where all of that, made in USA manufacturing happened. And like I said, I swear we didn't plant those parts there, but it just so happened we're running through our Ivan Stewart Tacoma parts. And to that point, the engineering that we're doing, we're trying to figure out how to get the most amount of coverage from what Toyota's already done a lot of work with, which is consolidating a lot of designs. So it's cool too, though. I mean, I'm always proud every time I see it pop out of that CNC machine, and you got that piece of billet sitting right next to that finished part. And,
Yeah.
you know, here it is as well. And, you know, proud moment for me. You guys, you know, you and Mario, a big part of kind of the whole MagnaFlow scene. And now here we are again, you know, 20 years later. And we've got a product line dedicated to a person who helped launch us into the world of motorsports and brought the brand appearance out to, you know, the world of off-road. And it's kind of a cool moment to have you back here and be a part of that.
Well, it's always, you know, it's good because when I come here or Camberg yesterday, I know that because I know the quality. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gotten involved with both of you guys, to be honest. But the quality and the, you know, and I tell the story all the time. It's these guys that build these parts. They're more of an artist than they are a fabricator. I mean, it used to be. I mean, I could fabricate something like that exhaust system there, but it wouldn't look like that. But no, the guys that are the artists and the, you know, and the pride and workmanship and all the things that I want, because I don't, you know, in this day and age, I want to like the people I work with. You know, I don't want to down that path of not having a good time. It's not fun. I don't want to do it.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you guys understand that.
And that's why we're into it like we are, because it's about the passion of what we do.
Sure.
And with the passion just comes the great product.
And I agree, 100%.
And that competitive spirit too. It's funny.
For sure.
Bringing back more memories too from when we filmed that commercial with Mario Andretti. We had to borrow those two vehicles. We had that Corvette, we had that Tacoma, and this is where having a truly passionate driver and real ambassadors that were in it because it was just the thing they wanted to do. We were telling you guys, hey, just come out of the driveway. We need to get you guys to meet here. First take, Mario's out a little faster than you are. And the next take, you're a little faster than Mario. Pretty soon we're like, guys, slow down. And it's like you got two race car drivers with high performance vehicles and V8s. And we're like, guys, we're just trying to film this. And you're doing a full slide in the truck. Mario's coming out full throttle on the Corvette. And it's just that you could tell that passion is always there. And I think that's that other motivating factor of having, you know, the legacy and all the things you bring to the table. But that competitive spirit, you know, our manufacturing capabilities, kind of combining that whole thing, I think that's what really is like the slam dunk.
It reminds me every time I see Mario, and I told him the story. I don't know if you heard this one. I think I told you before, but when we did that commercial, he's driving this. I don't think I've told you this. Anyway, he's driving a Corvette, and I've got a Toyota truck. Well, we come out of the cul-de-sac and down the road, and they says, when you get to this mark, stop. The Corvette stopped a whole lot faster than that truck would.
Yeah.
Almost ran into the back of me.
Yeah.
That's all I need. Put a kink in Mario Andretti's neck because I screwed up. It broke the truck and the Corvette.
That was a good time. That was a good time. Yeah.
Was that a good commercial for you?
Dude, it still pops up. Like you can find that, and people find, and they're like, "Wait, did you notice that this was like?" And we filmed that. And like some, I forgot what it was. We found some neighborhood with some really big mansion, and a big cul-de-sac.
Right.
And we did it with humor too. Like at that time, I forgot her name. She was one of our marketing people, and she saw you guys and was like, "Hi, boys," and Mario says hi, you say hi, and then you both just like look at each other, and it's like on, wah, and then she like jumps into the bushes, to get out of the way. It was hilarious.
You've seen that?
I've seen the commercial. Yeah. I think that just got put up on social not too long ago too, and everyone loved it. Yeah,
it's cool. More fun.
Yeah.
Those are the kind of fun things I'm talking about. There's not just the racing, you know, all the spin-offs, the fun things that I've been able to do, and places to go where I've gone and done and met people I met. Yeah. I wouldn't trade it for nothing. I wouldn't trade, you know, like if I look back on my life and all the things that I've been able to do, I mean, I wouldn't trade it for nothing.
Yeah. Just great
people. Yeah. Fun.
And that just comes back down to what we talked about in the beginning episodes is pushing the broom. It's just living your passion, right?
Go out and do the work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And how many people don't get to do that?
Yeah,
because they choose the wrong path. They know what they want to do, but they don't.
Yeah, well, it takes balls. It takes you have to take chances. You have to, be willing to what you mentioned earlier to lose or people with fear of failure is the biggest one.
I think it's a problem nowadays, just because. Back then, I couldn't do the research to find out what all the risks were. There was no a repository of like all the accidents you could have. If it wasn't on TV and it wasn't on in the moment, you didn't see it. Today, you do the research and it's like how many accidents occurred, how many people have got injured, and it's like you find so many more reasons not to. Yeah. At the end of the day, it's still you've got to figure out what you want and you've got to set your goal, and you just got to tell yourself, I'm going to try, I'm going to hit that wall, I'm going to try again, I'm going to hit that wall again.
Yeah.
I'm just going to find another way.
Well, it's just that failure is okay.
Yeah, it's part of the process.
I still, to this day, Lynn will call and ask me, do I want to do this? Do I want to do that? And I force myself to say yes. So, yep, I'll do it because I just out of my comfort zone. Because I have a lot of things that I used to do a long time ago, I don't do as much anymore. So it forces me to get into that. Yeah. Take a chance once in a while. Come on, you big baby. Yeah. You can do it. Just go up there. So let's
energetic, right? It's like I watched a show. They did this great show on all the green zones around the world, right? Yeah. There's one right in Southern California. Like everyone says, oh, in Japan and Italy, they live the longest. Well, there's one right. It's
Buena Park or something?
No, it's Altadena.
Altadena, yeah.
But it's like they all have a few common things, right? Laughing, friends, and work. Yeah. Right? Just staying active.
Yeah,
Working keeps you active. Yeah, no kidding. Really, laughing keeps you happy. Yeah. Friends, it's the socializing. Yeah. And it's so easy for people to, sit in that cubicle all day and hate their job versus sit in that cubicle and love their job and laugh. Yeah. Right? So makes a big difference. And I think, when you're retired and keeping moving, traveling, meeting people, I just
committing.
It's great.
Just committing to me is a good one,
Choose to not sit around.
Do what?
Just choose not to sit around. Right. It's very easy to keep doing nothing.
Yeah, well, sure.
Get out, get a little uncomfortable, and maybe there's something else out there.
For sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, so we're going to see Ivan out there more. And if you guys do see him, he loves when people come up.
Yep.
He actually does. Loves the stories, which is great. And that is the thing, right? Like there's people, I see them kind of standing off and they're afraid to come up and say hi. And I know just like watching Jay Leno, like you really enjoy it. Like you like when people tell their story. So I think that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else on here?
I think people would like to know, like, I know you're getting back into the social and you're kind of publishing some more things you're doing activities wise, where can we find, more information? You've got your Instagram account. That's pretty much your main thing right now where you're communicating through. And I'm seeing you in more places than just us. You're out there at other events supporting Toyota and then it's kind of the Toyota culture. So I think there's a lot of opportunities to find that. I know we're going to help push that out there. So you're going to find them at information at Ivan Stewart on Instagram. You're going to find stuff here at MagnaFlow, but ultimately, you're back out in the scene again. You're with the people and having fun doing what we love to do in off-road and off in the truck world.
Well, I just recently moved up to Flagstaff, so I got that behind me because that took a lot of to move is a big. I say this all the time. People a lot of times won't move because they've accumulated all this stuff. So I got all my mess moved at the Flagstaff, so I got more time now to
be around.
Be around and do more stuff. Get my Land Cruiser down to you.
Yeah, we got to do that for sure. I'm looking forward to that build. Those Land Cruisers are really cool.
Yeah. I'm geared up for it.
Awesome.
So thanks again, Ivan, for coming out here. Obviously, we want people to go out and check out your socials, kind of see you at the events we participate in. And if you want to find out more information about things going on that I'm taking care of, you're going to find me at Rich Waitas at Oxidize at Instagram.
And I'm Jerry Zaiden. You could find me at Jerry Zaiden. You could find the show at MagnaFlow TV on YouTube and at MagnaFlow everywhere else. This has been the MF Show.